do a countdown.
Hello and happy Wednesday. It's hump day.
Oh, all right.
Welcome to episode 22 of Calls with Paul. I'm Marquette Reddam, and it is 97 degrees.
But it feels good. It feels really good outside.
That's why we're sitting outside. That's why I'm wearing short sleeves.
I'm in slacks, and I feel good out here.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than 105 or whatever, or 10, or and now it's cooling down. I keep telling people how nice it is this time of year when it gets down to 90, and I'm driving with the windows down, and it feels so good. And then I look at the temperature, and I'm like, wow, it's 90.
Yeah, it's really bad when we're 97 is cool. Well, today
that's because we're hot, honey.
Yeah. Something like that. So today, I really like the topic that you came up with. One, we're going to talk a little bit about how buyers can source properties when they're looking to buy a home in Austin. And that may be, you may think but I think there's stuff that people don't know that you can help them understand, including the mysterious off-market, private, exclusive listing that you can only find in super duper secret places.
Yeah.
So why don't we start, if you don't mind? Did you introduce yourself?
I'm Paul Reddam.
He's the guy that knows everything. I'm just the one that likes to talk.
You're the one that knows everything. That's the way our marriages work.
All right, tell us a little bit about it. If you got a buyer and they're not working with an agent yet, where do most buyers go to source properties? Where should they look to kind of get a sense of the market and what's going on?
Well, what you should really do to start out with is get your friendly realtor to set you up with an MLS search to start there. But there's a lot of different places to go. A lot of buyers end up starting kind of out on the what we call aggregators. Zillow, Trulia, HotPad. They all get feeds that come straight off of the MLS. And
so they're not really coming up with any new content. They're just sharing content that other sources provide.
Right. They're just sharing it. But the tricky thing is when we run searches like side by side on each one, you'll see that there's a few more in the MLS that get missed. And that's...
Well, I got to stop you.
Yeah.
Because you're using realtor lingo. And when I
lingo.
practiced law, we were always really bad about using law lingo. What is the MLS?
Oh.
Help the average person understand your weird realtor speak.
So our MLS is the multiple listing service. So a long time ago, we all decided it was a good idea to cooperate with each other. And the way we would do that is we would pull all the listings into one spot. When I got in the business, it was actually a book. They came out every couple of weeks, and it lived
Stone Ages.
The Stone Ages, and it lived in the back seat of the car. And you'd learn about coming soons and whatnot from going to sales meetings and then talking to your buddies at different areas or different brokerages.
And what's fascinating to me, being relatively new to the real estate market, now that we're at Compass, we have to go to sales meetings.
Yeah.
And there are holdovers.
Yeah, we still do
things that I think are sort of archaic that people still do. Like, we're at these sales meetings and they spend time with people raising their hand talking about what listings they have coming soon or what buyers they have looking for properties, even though it's all online. Well, and it baffles me why we take the time to talk about these things, and it's because it's the way you've always done it.
That's right. Before all the wires and tubes of the internet, we would all meet like after a sales meeting. We'd all talk. And you'd say, hey, I have a buyer for this. And you'd go talk to the listing agent. And the listing agents would say, hey, I got this. And then after the meeting, there'd be this big market swap.
So the MLS is where licensed realtors input their listings. And it's sort of a gentleman's agreement, if you will, where all realtors agree, this is where I'm going to put my listing for it to be seen.
Right, for the most part, yeah.
And then the aggregators, sites like Zillow and Trulia and Redfin, they have agreements with the MLS, and they pull data from the MLS and they just repackage it.
Right.
The difference is that if I'm Joe Blow in the public, I can actually get on Zillow and look at properties. But I cannot, as Joe Blow, get on the MLS.
That's right. So everybody ends up like on Zillow and all that kind of stuff. But the trick is some of the listings that are on the MLS, let's just tackle this part for now, that get on the MLS, an agent has to click a certain box that says you're willing to syndicate to the aggregators. And there's a lot of agents out there who are really PO'd with the aggregators. I'm not one of them. I think it's great, the transparency they're bringing and all that stuff. But that search isn't complete on the
Yeah,
on
so
Zillow.
so that means that if I'm a buyer and I really want to find a house and I'm just searching Zillow, am I seeing everything that's potentially on the market?
No.
You're not.
No.
Okay. So I should talk to a realtor
Yeah.
who then can, that's where I interrupted you. You were saying a realtor would set up a search, take it from there.
Right. So before all the off-market listings, we really set people up with searches that fit their needs, and we'd adjust them as we went on to make sure we were providing the right kind of search experience. And so you really ought to do that, because that's kind of the source of all the where all the listings come from, or the bulk of them.
Okay. So you get the realtor to get properties from the MLS, and other than not being able to search it yourself, are there any differences? Does Zillow, for example, have any listings or anything, any properties that the MLS isn't going to have?
Sure. No, that's a great question. Zillow has some for sale by owners that show up in there. As of late, in recent years, Zillow started putting coming soons on there, so sometimes agents will do that. So there's a little bit of a market in there. But if I were going to coach somebody, and we do this sometimes, if I were coaching somebody on where to search outside of the MLS, I'd say, look, go to Zillow and search for the for sale by owners, and set your zip code in there, and you'll get some returns that we may miss out on.
One of the things I think that's sad is that the whole point of the MLS initially was to keep people from having these little fiefdoms or silos of listings that they held, so that it was just theirs and nobody else could see them. And so the MLS allowed everybody to share information. It feels like now we're going back to the silos and the fiefdoms. Because, for example, Love Compass, one of the coolest things we have is that our realtors, there's over 300 realtors in Austin at Compass now, and the realtors share their coming soon properties exclusively on the Compass website,
where anybody can search.
Where anybody can search them. So it's not just available to realtors. Yeah. So if you're searching then and you want to see and get a jump on the market, particularly in Austin's competitive market, where it can really be to your advantage to know things that are coming to the market before they go live, you would definitely want to go check out Compass.
Yep.
But that means, gosh, as a buyer, I'm checking Compass for coming soon. I'm working with my realtor to find things that are searchable on the MLS. I'm probably checking Zillow or some other site for sale by owners. That's a lot.
Yeah, it really is.
And do they need to be doing that, or can the realtor source all of that for them?
Most good agents are going to set up searches for all that stuff.
Okay.
But it's a lot to keep hold of, and as buyers on the hunt for a home and really eager to get a place, a lot of times they'll be on there too. I mean, there's just no, I don't think there's any stopping it.
And Compass isn't the only one that has coming soon. There are other realtors, real estate brokerages that have exclusive listings and things like that. So it can be hard when all of these different groups are holding their own information.
Right. So we of the brokerages, I went and I sniffed around and.
Well, hold on.
I'll hold on.
Hold on.
That's going to be a fun.
Don't release that super secret yet. There's also this thing called off-market listings.
Yeah.
And that just takes what we just talked about. It makes it even more complicated.
To a whole nother level.
So what exactly is an off-market listing?
Well, it's not on the MLS.
Okay.
So you'll hear it.
Well,
you'll hear it referred to. There's a lot of reasons why, but you'll hear it referred to as a pocket listing, a silent market listing, a quiet listing, all this kind of stuff.
Private exclusive,
yeah. A whole bunch of different terms for it, but it all really means the same thing. It's not on the MLS. We're marketing it. There are groups out there that are just for realtors who pay to play. And get in through application, So,
it's expensive. So, I mean, just a word to the wise as a buyer, if you've been searching and you are frustrated with your search and you want to make sure you're seeing everything that's out there, you need to ask your realtor how they are looking and sourcing off-market properties, because there's two particular groups in Austin especially that have a very large, which you're going to go into, large portion of off-market listings. That you have to pay a substantial sum of money as a realtor to get access to. And I think that there are a lot of realtors that just don't pay those fees. I mean, one of them's like
Or-
$600 a year.
Or no, for that or
May not
qualify,
even-
or qualify.
Yeah, they may not be eligible. They may not be approved to be in the group that shares
Yeah.
those things. They may not want to pay the money. So you definitely want to ask if your realtor has access to some of these off-market listing resources.
Yeah.
So you're seeing everything.
It's
Okay.
it's about 4.5%
There you
of
go.
the market.
Numbers.
I think it's going to end up being like if I really worked hard at it, I think I could get it to 5%. But it's a larger chunk of the market than I really expected. Before I put the pen and paper together, I thought it'd be like 1% or even less. But it's a big portion.
So you might be missing out. Like if they're that let's put that 4%, 4.5%. That's what 350, 450 listings.
Yeah. So you live with me. I've been tracking it for a few months now and counting up how many off-market listings there are from 4 sources that I've gone to quite a bit, and it ranges anywhere from like 350 to 450 that'll be on at any given time when we count them up.
That's a lot of houses.
Yeah.
And they're not all going to fit your search criteria, but I mean,
Yeah.
even if 10 of them fit your search criteria, I would want to know what
Yeah.
those 10 were.
Or just one.
Yeah, it could be the
Like,
one.
you just need
The one.
the one, and it's hidden
Yeah.
there in the weeds.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Like as of a week or so ago, when you last ran the numbers, there were like 370 off-market listings.
Yeah, it was a little bit low in the off-market side.
How'd that break down?
Well, a lot of it was $1 million homes. So there's one site that's dedicated to homes that are $1 million and over, and there's quite a few on there. There were, where does it say, 194 on the super secret $1 million plus market. So, guys, if you're looking for $1 million plus home, you really need to be in tune with this particular market. And then there were 103 or so that were on the top agent network.
And that's national.
Yeah, it's not a secret market. It's national. These are just for our what they call chapter inside of the top agent network. So this is just for
Just the
for
Austin.
Austin. Yeah.
Austin.
So there's 103 right there.
And that's one of the ones you have to pay a really nice sum of money to be part of and have access to.
Yeah, you do. They're really making a business out of it. And those range anywhere from 300,000 to up into the mills also. And then at Compass, we had, and it's probably changed since then, we had 58 that were coming soon, and we had 15 at another brokerage that I don't think
Yeah, just
our,
another
our
brokerage.
guys would be excited to hear, but it was only 15. They've been historically kind of the second runner up to coming soon stuff.
Well, it's fascinating to me. For those of you that are buyers and you are looking, so for example, every week
Yeah.
we send out an email, and if you want to be on that email, drop your name below or send us a direct message.
Yeah.
We send in an email, and we compile and we curate into a collection all of the Compass coming soons.
Yeah.
We also periodically will share special off-market listings. For example, listings that might have expired recently that are no longer being marketed for sale, or it might be for sale by owners that we've developed a relationship with, that we've agreed to showcase their property for them. And so that's one way, you can get that delivered straight to your inbox, so you don't have to go find it. Yeah. Every week, we also include a list of all the open houses that are happening on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday inside Central Austin. So you can check that out and get the information delivered to you to kind of help you with your home search and get that jump on things.
And by the way, compiling all that takes a great deal of effort. So please pay attention to the buyer's bulletin. We'd be grateful.
Okay, so question. Now I'm a buyer. I'm looking at Zillow for sale by owners. I've got my realtor sourcing stuff for me from the MLS. I'm making sure I get that buyer's bulletin so I can see all those Compass coming soons and the select listings that you find are
Right.
nice off-market choices. Now I'm exhausted.
Now you're worn out.
I'm
yeah.
exhausted. I'm worn out. But why? Why would someone ever list their house off market? I know you did a blog post recently and about that, and someone said, well, why would anybody ever list off market? And
Yeah.
I know that you've had differing opinions about this over the years.
I have. I was for a long time really opposed to the off-market stuff, and then And then I had a couple of experiences that really opened my eyes to, maybe it's not a bad thing for sellers and maybe it's not a bad thing for buyers, but it depends on the circumstance and what you're doing. A lot of people don't want to mess with the MLS. They don't want all the people tracking through.
Well, let's talk about those in pieces. I mean, I think one of the challenges when you used to, we would debate about this. I think the reason not to go off market is because you're not getting the entire segment of your potential buyers to see the listing, like we just talked about. Like, you're going to have a whole bunch of people whose agents don't necessarily have access to it or don't see it. And if you want to get the maximum price and the maximum value for your home, why not put it on the market and create that frenzy of buyers that want to purchase it? So, am I right? That was always kind of the argument for, well, you should definitely put it on the market.
I couldn't understand how you could get one person to pay more than a whole bunch of people. Like, if you just have one bidder, that doesn't make sense.
And they're not bidding against someone else in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
And then we had some experiences.
Yeah,
personally.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Sure.
So the first one where I really ended up eating a little crow, we had this on Shoal Creek Boulevard. We had a place for sale, and we got an offer that was ahead of market. And I got that offer, and it was pretty good. It was a good offer, and I was like, yeah, that's a good offer, but we're going to go to the MLS and make even more. And as it ended up, we went to the MLS. We didn't make more. In fact, we made less. And from that, I learned that sometimes that offer you get pre-market is better than what you may get. But how would you have known?
And you still wouldn't know, because just because you got a really strong pre-market offer doesn't mean that's not what it would have settled on after the option period or
I still feel
else.
comfortable with my advice, and they knew the pros and cons and all that stuff. But now I'm a little bit more open to the idea that you can sell something for more pre-market. And then we also had an experience where we listed a personal residence of ours, and we put it out there, and we ended up making way more money than I really ever expected us to.
Based on which one was that?
That was over in French Place.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
That's because it had some really awesome updates in interior design.
It did, that somebody really worked hard on.
No ego there.
But we figured we'd get $475 for it, and we got 10% more than that.
Yeah. And so that made us start thinking about it a little bit more. And then at Compass, I mean, there are a lot of our colleagues at Compass that really do off market, and we do it too now, more so. It's not always right in every case. We're gonna pause for a minute because we lost our signal.
Well, these guys over here are still tuned in.
Well, I hear you, but we're just gonna pause for a second while we try to reconnect. We look really funny just getting really close to the
Well, I was trying to sit up. I started leaning forward on accident.
Okay, well,
let's just go on these guys.
Okay. Well,
should we turn this off and on or something?
No, we'll be fine. All right, so the other thing that you did recently is that you reached out to a bunch of the team leaders at Compass across the nation and tried to say, okay, you guys, tell us a little bit about why would someone go off market?
Yeah.
And it kind of fell into some real consistent reasons. Tell us about that.
Well, so originally, like the original off-market stuff was really always about celebrity and keeping it secret. Like if you're leaving town or and you're a rock star or whatever, and like you don't want all the paparazzi coming through your house.
You don't want a lot of looky-loos, poking around in your closet. And
privacy might be a little more important to you than the full force of the market or whatever. So that was the original coming soon or off-market stuff, and we've had that forever. But in recent years, it's gotten much more popular as a strategy for all kinds of people. But let's see, what do we come? The first one was celebrity, so we covered that, right? And then there's job concerns, and some of that celebrity, like if you're a work celebrity and a very key player.
If you're a CEO and you're looking at making a leap, you don't necessarily want to broadcast to the world that you're making a change in jobs.
Right.
So you might do your home off market that way.
Right. And one of the things, I didn't think of this one. This was one of my Compass friends. They said that sometimes people don't want to signal they're moving because they're afraid they may not get their bonus at work. So they're gonna keep the I'm moving close to my vest, get their bonus, and then move on.
Right.
Um,
That makes sense.
I wouldn't have thought of that because I don't think I've ever really been employed.
Right. Sometimes also people work at home and they just can't have
Yeah.
the interruption that often happens with having to stop showing, or you've got you're in the middle of a big conference call and someone wants to pop in while you're
see your house
while you're working, and it's something private and important that other people don't need to hear.
Yeah.
What are some other reasons?
Did we cover all? Yeah. Bonus,
I think we did the job concerns.
And then there's the I have a couple right now that kind of want to do the luxury version of Make Me Move. They'd like to sell their house, but they really want it for top dollar, and they don't want to have a bunch of people coming through. So I think we see a fair amount of that. And then there's gaining an advantage and playing the market a little bit. This might work again, huh?
Keep going.
There's playing the market and gaining a little bit of advantage. We see a lot of listings that have been on the MLS. They come off and they sit into and then they go into the off market, and you can see that happening if you're paying attention to all the markets.
So sometimes people will be in the MLS and they come off market for a while and then they go back on market.
Right. A really prestigious firm here in Austin, small super luxury. You know who I'm talking about. Starts with a G. I've seen them do kind of this really neat play, and I've been curious about it, but I haven't done it myself. But where they'll put it on the MLS for a month, and then they'll take it off for a while, and put it right back out there when there's a new audience. Like within 3 months, 3 months later, they'll put
well, they're resetting the days.
They're resetting the days, and then
because on the MLS, your days accrue. Unless you take it off market for 3 months, and then you get to go back to zero. Like, I'm a brand new listing and I've never been on the market. Look at me.
I saw them do it a few times, and I didn't see them continue to do it. So I think people are. I think off market's become mainstream a little bit, and people are trying to figure out good strategies that go with that.
I also think there's this feeling of specialness and exclusivity.
Absolutely.
With oh, well, my home's listed off market and only a select group of buyers are allowed to look at it because it's so special. I think there's some of that. We also had a client that opted to go off market because they felt like in their neighborhood everyone was selling off market, and they thought they had a better chance of selling if they sold and went the off market route than putting it on market, which I think is, I don't necessarily agree with that philosophy, but whatever.
Well, I think there's on the seller side of it, I think that there's an exclusivity to it, and buyers will pay more for that when they don't have to face the bidding wars and all that kind of stuff.
The other thing that we sometimes see with this off-market stuff is sometimes people are testing the market and they're testing their price. Maybe they're working on getting a few things fixed up at the house. They're in the process of getting a roof fixed or something like that, and they want to kind of test it out. You can do that also with the Compass Coming Soon. I think that's a really good tool to sort of test the market and be like, okay, I'm going to try my go for it price.
Right.
Let's see what kind of bites we get, if we get any interest. And if you don't, then when you actually go live, you can adjust accordingly and not having been sitting there and letting those days on market accrue against you while that was all happening. So that's another reason.
Well, and it's been real nice because I've seen twice now in real recent history where we want to stick with the Coming Soon number.
Right, and ended up kind of going with it. Is there a downside to that?
No, not at all. I mean, usually the Coming Soon is during the prep phase and while people are getting ready to go, and if we could sell it ahead of time, maybe you don't have to do staging and you don't have to do all that kind of stuff. So and it's you're broadcasting that it's coming kind of like a movie trailer.
Yeah.
Ahead of a Star Wars event or something.
Yeah, get those people lined up out the door, ready to go see it.
Ready to go. Get your tickets now.
For sure. Any other thoughts about off-market listings?
No, it's a brave new world, and you really have to pay attention to it. I was surprised at how much a part of the market it was, and how much it's grown. It'll be neat if I do this again a year from now to see if the off-market's gotten bigger or smaller, or what the standard there is.
And I think it's fascinating too, Because you're seeing also buyers are coming to you with a real clear idea of what they want now because they've been on these sites. They've been on Compass. They've been on, you can also search homes on our website. You can search homes, on all those different aggregator sites. And so people are doing that and they come prepared. They have a better idea of what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing like there are people out there, and I'm not one of them, but who can really look online, and they come and they'll say, "Hey, Paul, can we go see this one house?" And then they buy it.
And it used to be that really your clients relied on you exclusively to kind of guide and direct that. And the internet's great. It's kind of flat in the world. It makes it easier to see all this information. The downside is now there's so many different sources to try to look for that information and find the pieces.
I'm afraid the market may get more fragmented. Like there's just where we came together to be one thing, and now we have all these offshoots of where we're marketing stuff, and I think the agent has done that to gain an advantage in lead generation.
Any last advice for buyers?
No. If you have any questions, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I get a little passionate about this stuff, and I'm excited to visit with you if you have questions.
Any other thoughts about investors? Because we are also buyers. You should just remember we're hitting that cycle where there's a little bit more inventory on the market, and prices are usually, historically in Austin, cyclically, seasonally, about 6 to 8% lower.
That's right.
So, good time to kind of jump in, right?
This is the best time of year to jump in.
I played with the numbers last night because I was like, wow, what's a 6 to 8% difference look like? If it were just a $500,000 house in Austin, a 6% difference is about $30,000.
It's a lot of money.
So your money can go a lot further.
It's like half a college fund.
Well, it takes you to a different bracket.
Yeah.
I don't know what college you're looking at.
Well, to start to what Bill said we needed to get into.
Okay, well, that's a cheaper one than what I was thinking. But we want to say thank you also to our Compass colleagues across the nation that helped share their feedback, because we wanted to make sure that we were bringing you current information, not just from Austin, but from other parts of the world as well. So Les Arnold from Boston, thank you. Haneen Haider from San Francisco, and Don Thomas from Silicon Valley. We got great input from Amit Buddha in Miami and Carolyn Davidson in San Francisco. Courtney Smith always has so much quality and value to add out of LA. And another one from Kenneth R. in San Francisco. So to our Compass colleagues, thank you very much for helping us source that information and share your reasons for why people go off market in your neighborhoods and areas. Which means, all to say is, you guys, if you're ever looking outside of Austin, we are more than glad to connect you and hook you up with realtors. We just did that recently for a client who is moving to
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Yes, yeah. Charlotte.
Yeah.
So, all right. See you next week for Calls with Paul, episode 23.
Wow.
Thanks.
See ya.